Hi everyone, and welcome to the next hands-on activity where we are going to start to create our singular product page. Alright, so this is what I was referring to earlier on when I mentioned, let's say we're on our storefront here, our store page, and we see a product that we like. So let's say I like Marvin's black shoes here. So technically in Siri, what we want to happen is when we click on Marvin's black shoes, we want to be redirected to a singular product page that has information, more information, should I rather say, of Marvin's black shoes. So for example, it might give a bit of description on this product, and it will also allow us, it will also give us the option to add this item to our cart. Okay, so that's essentially what we want to do. Now we are going to start to build that page and build that view and everything like so. And essentially what we will be doing is we will be testing this out in the URL pass here. And then we also going to go ahead and migrate this to this area here later on. All right, so let's go ahead and check this out. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to head over to our store and we need to head over to our URLs. Okay, so we have one URL pass here, and that is redirecting to our store page here, as we can see. Now, what we want to do is we want to create a URL pass for our individual product that we select. So in other words, if I want to select this product, or if I want to select this product, if I select it here, I want it to be redirected to that specific page where we can see more information and we can add it to the cart. Okay, so that's what we want to do. So a way of demonstrating this theoretically would be, let's say here in the URL, let's say we want to look for a product. We're going to say product. And then we want to actually put in that product name. So here, for example, we have Marvin's black shoes. So in Siri, what we want to happen is we want to, for example, let's copy this if we can, copy that, put that here. We essentially want to be able to, for example, see Marvin's black shoes if we go to this specific URL. If, however, we want to, for example, look at this mineral blue shirt, we in Siri want to go ahead and add this like follows. We're not going to do it like this, but this is just a visual demonstration of what's going to happen and how we're going to do it. All right, so essentially here, we're going to see the slug field in here, and this is just going to be a route called product. So here is where the slug field comes into play. And as you'll notice, when we created those slug fields, they gave us dashes here in the admin page. But don't worry, I will explain this in further detail. I just want to give you a bit of an overview. All right, so what we want to do is we want to set this URL path here. So let's go ahead and set this up. So first of all, we're going to say pass. And here I'm going to do exactly that what I showed, and I'm going to say product / and within angle brackets here, I'm going to say slug. And then I want to close it like so. So essentially here is where we are going to have that specific product, which is going to generate a dynamic sort of value here. And in space of the slug, we're going to have, for example, dark green shirt, mineral blue shirt, Marvin's black shoes, Marvin's brown shoes. We're going to have here within this slug. Next, we want to specify the views. So here we're going to say views dot, and we're going to need to create this. So I'm just going to say product info sounds good, underscore info, which we'll create in a moment. And the name, I'm going to say product dash info, like so. Remember your comma. Great. So let's go ahead and create this view. Okay, so basically we're going to create a view now, which is going to reference our slug and return the necessary data. But don't worry, we're going to go through this in a moment. So head over to your views, and we can put this down here, and let's create that view. So the purpose of this view is to get an individual product from our database. So what we're going to do, first of all, is we need to go ahead here and say from django.shortcuts import get object, and it automatically is shown here in Visual Studio Code, get object or 404. So we want to get our object, and if that object doesn't exist, we're going to return a 404 for not found. So that's what we're doing here. So it's a slightly different way of querying our database. So it's another way. So I'll explain it gently here. So we can say here now def product underscore info. And here I'm going to pass in the request and also the slug. So I'm also passing in the slug here. So what's going to happen here is after we pass in the slug, we're going to create sort of a variable here for product, and we're going to say get object or 404, and we want to get our product, okay, and we want to get the product where the slug is equal, where the slug is equal to the slug. So we want to get a specific product where that slug is equal to that slug. Now remember, we set all the slugs accordingly. So we set our slug here, and we also set the slug here. So the category will be unique, but of course our slug here, we just want to verify that it's the same slug. Okay, now what we can do is say context, and here we're going to pass in product. So now you know the difference between key and values, and product like so. So here is our key product, and our value that we're getting is over here. Then we can say return render, and we can pass over a request. And what we need to do, of course, is create a product info .html page, which we'll get to in just a moment. So I'm just going to go ahead and name it for now. So it's going to be called product-info.html. And this will be within store, remember. So remember, we need to assign that store folder here that we have. So it's going to be under store, like so. And in that store, we're going to pass in our context, just like normal. So let me explain a little bit more about this slug, because I'm probably assuming that this can be a bit confusing to understand. So let's start from the drawing board. So let's go over what we're doing here. So what we're doing is we are going to get data, okay, from our database, so specifically product data. So we want to get our products, okay, from our database as it reads, and if it doesn't exist, we want to throw a 404 error, okay? So what we're doing then is we're going to match that product with the slug ID, which we are adding in here. Now, the way that we get this slug here is from our URLs. When we, for example, say product, let's say, let's see, Marvin's brown shoes, like so. So essentially here, this will be our, let me add the dashes in there, because remember when we, in our admin, we had those dashes. Now it looks a bit clean. Okay, so here's our slug. So when we make a request here for product Marvin's brown shoes to that URL, this is the slug here, our actual product name, our product title. In our views, okay, we're going to get that particular slug, this here, which is going to pass here into our product table. Okay, so we're going to search for the slug that is equal to the one that we just searched for here in the URL. Okay, so that is essentially what we're doing here. So we want to match this up accordingly. So I know at a beginner level with Django, you would understand what we're doing here with the product. We want to get the product, and from that product, we want to get the slug, where the slug is equal to the slug that we are essentially looking for. So that is basically what's going on. So I know that can be a bit confusing, so let's go even deeper into it. Let's go even further. So if we go back, we essentially create a variable called slug, okay? And we are essentially referencing that variable by the product that we are searching for. So that is what's going on here. That is what we are essentially doing. Okay, so I hope that made sense as to what's going on here. All right. So what we want to do now is this product info isn't picking up the view. So all you can do here is you can just simply just go here and just say, just retype that and click here and make sure it turns nice and turns into a nice purple color. Okay, so there is our URL set and there is our view set. Now the next part will have to do with setting up this product info.html page and then returning all of the product information based on that selected item that we choose. Okay, so that's the next thing that we need to figure out. Hi everyone, and welcome to the next hands-on activity, which is a continuation of the previous lecture. So we're going to carry on building our main product data grid. So let's evaluate what we need to do. So essentially what we want to do is we want to show all of the products and that we have added earlier on when we populated our database now here down below. So that is what our task is. So basically what we're going to need to do first of all is we need to head over to our views.py, and we're going to create some very simple logic, and we need to basically output all of our products from our database onto this page here. So we're going to perform a query similar to all categories here, but we are now, instead of setting a context processor so that we are able to return all the data like categories on every template, there's no need for that here, because we just want to return it on a single page here and only on our store page as we see fit here. That's all we want to do. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and do the same here. So here I'm just going to say all products, and I'm going to say product.objects.all to get all the products. So make sure you've imported the product model. And now we're just going to simply create a context dictionary here, and I'm going to take in all products as my key. Sorry, I'm just setting this here. Sorry, this is just the key. You can name this anything that you want. And here we need to set our value, which will be all products. So here I'm going to say all products. So technically when it comes to these key value pairs in a dictionary, you can name this anything that you want. So if this is something confusing to you, just to better illustrate what I'm doing here, you can simply just say something like my underscore products. And I'm going to explain what I mean by this now. So this is your key that you're going to reference in the template when you loop out all of the products, which I'll explain in a moment. So what you can do now simply is just pass through that context dictionary which you just created like so. That's all you need to do here. Now some people say context equals context, and that also works. I used to do this quite a lot. So either way is fine, you know, tomato, tomato, either way is fine. Great, so we have our view set and ready to go. Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and open up our store. Okay, and we need to now figure out the position of where we want to loop it. Now you obviously, if you're using the same code as me, okay, I'm going to show you where you need to put in the for loop. So here of course is our main row, and our main row ends about here. So let's actually, you know, clean this up. We can clean this up a little bit. Let's see where we're pointing everything here. So you can just edit this accordingly, make it a bit cleaner, you know, just a bit, you know, a bit cleaner to the eyes. So we have a column here, and we have our main row here, a line here for our products, our container, and our main sort of background here for our album. So what I want us to do is I want us to actually loop from here. So here, essentially, we're just going to create a loop. So we're going to say for, and we can name this part anything. So I'm going to say for product in, and now comes the important part. So here we need to reference by the dictionary, not the value, but the dictionary. So the dictionary, sorry, my apologies. We need to reference by the key, not to the value. So this is a dictionary. So we start off with a key and a value. And when we're looping in Django, we need to make use of that key. So the key here is my products. So we can just say that. Simple. And what we're going to need to do is need to end this loop. We want to end this loop. So essentially, I just want to indent this so you can understand what's going on. Let's indent that slightly. So I want to close this here. Say end for, like that. There we go. So make sure you put it like me, or else it's going to look all wonky and weird. And what we want to do first of all is we want to set the image here. So we're going to set the source for the image right here by src. And here we can reference product, and we can double check our models here. And let's see what we want to return. So we want to return a title, we want to return an image, and we want to return a price. Okay, so we can save the description, the brand for later when we're in detail, when we're specifically selecting a product. So let's keep it simple and use some of these fields. So here I'm going to use the image. So all I need to do here is simply go ahead and return product.image.url. That's it. Next, we need to set here the title. I think this is a good place for the title. And here I'm just going to add in product. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say dot title, and I'm going to add that fancy temp filter that I added earlier called cap first, because I want to make sure that it is capitalized the product title if it isn't already. So go ahead and just add that in accordingly. Now, what we want to do later on in the course is we want to add a dynamic URL. So when a user clicks on this product title, they will automatically be redirected to that product. Okay, and that's where we can add it here by adding an absolute URL, but one at a time, we'll get to that. Next, we want to set the price. So we have a H5 tag here, which I think will do nicely. So let's work with dollars. So I put a dollar symbol in there. And here I just want to say product.price. And I always like to put spacing in like so. And that's working. I think that is how it should work. Yeah. All right. So we filtered it out. Now I always like to restart my server just to make sure there aren't any conflicts or any sort. Now, usually it will pick up once it runs, but you know, I like to double check. Let's refresh. And there we go. So we can see our products are looking really nice. Everything's formatted really nicely. And we can now see we have our items, our products, a nice image of our product, along with the text and price here. So essentially what we want to do in the future is we want to be able to click on these products, so by the name, and we want to be redirected to a page where we can actually add these products to our cart. So that's something essentially that we want to do as we work further on. All right, so if you got to this point, well done. So you might need to double check what I have here with my code so you at least get what's going on. But to be honest with you, if you're struggling, you know, just simply go ahead and copy and paste this all products section. So this is technically a section on its own. It's got nothing to do with this introduction section. So literally, if you're struggling, make sure you have up to this section here, the introduction. You know, remove your product section if it's complicated for you. Go ahead and copy and paste this here into your code, this introduction in this product section. Simple as that, if you're struggling. But I advise you to work on it and, you know, improve and build on it. All right. So that's it for this part. So we've built the main product data grid for our store. So it's all set and ready to go. All right. So that is it. Hi, everyone. And welcome to the next hands-on activity where we are going to build the main product data grid. So what I mean by that is if we are on our homepage here, we want to see all of our products appear just below this create account section here. So we want to see all of our products here like it is on a normal e-commerce website. Now, as usual, what I've done is I've gone ahead and created a nice product template for you. Now, if you're probably wondering about where to get such things, I do recommend going to Bootstrap. Now, you can go ahead and look at something called card, so card decks here. So this does, you know, bear a resemblance to an example here of what I'm using, where you could have a picture here of possible products along with a card title, or in our case, product title and a product description, which you can look into and evaluate. But like I said, what I think I'm going to do actually is I'm going to add a lot of links and directions for you so you can play around with your own sort of designs and structures so we can focus more on the important parts of Django. So basically, you can go ahead and check this out, and I will attach links. I think I'll make it known in the resources section when I'm finished with the course, and maybe make it a bit more accessible and easier for you to access, so you at least have some direction of where to go. So this is going to be a bit different. So I'm also going to attach this code here within the description, within the resources folder of this particular lecture, so do check that out. Now, it's very simple what you need to do here. You're not going to add this file to your project. All you're going to do, it's very simple, is copy everything within this file that I upload in the resources section of this lecture. Copy it all. Head over to your project, to your store, and to your store template specifically here. So your main store. I want to close that. And all we're going to do is all you need to do is just paste it down below section and above end block and below section. So I'm just going to go here. I'm going to copy everything here from this main product section, and I'm just going to paste it like that. Okay, so it gives you a nice style. And what we can do is we can refresh, and we can now see we have a nice sort of location for our products. So when users come to the page, they'll see, oh, I can create an account. Oh, this product's here. Let's have a look. So that's essentially what is going on here. We also have a place for our image, and we'll also have a place to add some text, etc. All right, so there you have it. So very simple, straightforward. It's not a file that you need to, a template you need to create. All you literally need to do is open this file within this particular lecture. Go ahead and copy and paste everything here. You can of course update it as you want. Just paste it below the section and above the end block of the store template. That's all you need to do. Simple and straightforward. All right, so that's that. Hi everyone, and welcome to the next hands-on activity where we are going to start to build our category view. So now we have populated our database with a few categories along with some products. So let's go ahead and build our category view. So we're not going to finish this fully, but we're just going to start it for now. So head over to your store app, head over to your views. And what we want to do here is just above, we can actually put it below store, that's fine. We want to create a view here. Okay, so we're going to create a function called categories. And we're going to pass in our request object because we want to return some categories. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and query the database. But before we can do that, we need to import our model. So right here, I just want to take away this. What we want to do is say from.models import category. So go ahead and do that. So we want to import our category model. And right here, just to make sure you indent, we're going to just create a variable here called categories, which will act as our value. So what I'm going to do is say all categories, and I'm going to say category.objects.all. So I want to select all of the categories. So in our case, we have shoes and we also have shirts. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in a unique way. So I'm going to say return, and within my curly braces, I'm going to pass in my key, which is going to be all categories. Okay, and I'm going to pass in my value, which is going to be referenced to this here, which is all categories. So technically we can name the key anything we want. So this is a standard dictionary. So I'm going to explain what I'm doing here. So I'm going to return all the categories from our model. And for that, we just need a single statement. Now, what we want to do is, as you noticed, we have our base.html navbar. So if I were to keep my server online and go back, you can see we have this navbar, and we're working on this categories drop down here. So essentially what we want to happen is we want all of our categories, the data itself here, to be available across all of our pages throughout our application. So we want it to be available thoroughly. And to do this, we would need to add this view to something called a context processor. So this means that no matter what template or page that we use, we will have access to this category data on every single page. So this is something new that I'm teaching you guys. So we want to add this to a context processor. Now you've probably seen that before. So if we head over here to our project settings.py in another tab, you can go ahead and scroll down or scroll up in my case here, until we can find, let's see where we have it. Okay, it's here. So I just missed it there. So context processors here. And what we want to do is we want to add it right down here. So all we're going to do is we're going to add that view. So our view here is essentially categories. So we want to add that view. So apologies guys, a bit late. So I'm lost control of where the context processor is. So here we go. So we can just go ahead here and add store, because that is the app where our views are. So we're going to say store.views.categories. Okay, like so. Remember to add your comma at the end. So here I'm just going to mention that. So updated. I'm just going to say updated so you're aware of this. So here is our store.views categories. Okay, so this is a context processor that we're adding. So this will allow it to be available, our data, on every single template or page, so we can reference this easily. Great. So make sure you add that in. So remember, store.views.categories. So essentially you're going to store, you're going to views, and you're going to categories. So kind of see it like that 3-stage part. So that sort of drop down. You dropped into store, you drop down to views, and you drop down to, and you drop down to categories. Okay, so that's what we need to do here. Great, now let's move on. So once you've set that up, what you can actually do is head over to your store, templates, head over to your base, scroll down, and you'll notice we already have our categories drop down, and we have this drop down already set for all. So that is one of the options that we have. So make sure your server is running, refresh, and you'll see we have one for all, and that essentially returns back to our store front, so our home page. That's the URL that I assigned there. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to go ahead and loop throughout this view that we created. Okay, now you'll notice here that we're not saying return render back to this base specifically. Now we will be able to access this and create a for loop to loop through this easily without returning render and context like we usually do, because we went ahead in settings and added it here. So it's automatically on every template. So we can literally run a for loop on any page we want, returning all of that category information. So essentially here, I'm going to go to base.html, and right down here, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to create a for loop. So all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say for category, so we can name this anything, in all categories. Okay. And what I want to do is end my loop here. So end for, so end your loop accordingly. And now what you can do is you can go ahead and just copy what you have here, like so. And for the moment, at least for the moment, we just want to add this here, our list item. So we want to make this sort of a list. And we can remove this href because we're going to make dynamic links, which we will get to momentarily. So what we can do now, instead of seeing all here, we can actually reference all of the categories that we have. So we have shoes and shirts. So here I'm just going to simply go ahead and say category dot name. So that's what we assigned it. So we're going to loop through all the category names within this drop down menu. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually check this out and see how it works. So I like to always restart my server just for effect and emphasis. Refresh. Now you can see here now we have everything in our list. So our shoes and our shirts now all set and ready to go. Okay, so this doesn't look so nice. Okay, we want to capitalize this on our front end. Now to do this, you can use an inbuilt Django sort of template filter here. So we can just go ahead and add in the following symbol, add a space and say cap first. Now this is probably very obvious as what it's going to do. So it's going to capitalize the first letter of each word. So if we refresh, check, and we can now see it's now capitalized and all set and ready to go. So eventually what's going to happen is we're going to click on our categories option here, and we want to, if we want to filter according to all the shoes, all the shirts, or all the products, all the categories per se, we can filter that accordingly as we wish. Okay, so this is very fancy, a fancier way, should I say, of, and let me just indent this, of looping through your code and such. So do bear in mind something new here that we learned, something called making use of the context processor, so that we can actually loop our data here that we are returning on any page without returning it to a specific page. So it's very helpful and very simple to do. All right, so that is the first part for building our category view. Hi everyone, and welcome to the next hands-on activity where we are going to populate our database with some data. Now, before we do that, there are a few things I want to teach you first of all. Right, so what we want to do is essentially, if we go to our e-commerce project, head over to store and models.py, you'll notice we have our category model and our product model. Now, what we want to do is we want to link our category model and our product model together. So basically what we want to happen is when we filter here by, for example, let's have a look at the data we have. So here I have shoes and I have shirts. So let's say we want to filter between shoes, shirts, and all, which is all products. What we need to do here is we need to create a foreign key that links our model product and our model category together. Now, the reason I did not do this earlier is to teach you a few things. Now, one of the things that I want to teach you here is the fact that when you go ahead and modify your models, what you need to do first of all is you need to make sure your server's on. Then you need to head over to your admin page and go ahead and log in with your credentials. Once you've entered that in, go ahead and log in. Okay, and make sure under your categories model, you have 0 objects. And double check under your products model that you have 0 objects. So this is important. So whenever you make migrations, make sure, or new migrations, make sure you delete your models accordingly. Okay, so that is something very important to bear in mind. And the other reason of why I'm holding off until now to add this foreign key is to explain what we're doing here. So essentially we have our shoes here. Okay, and what we want to do is in our model here under products, we want to have a foreign key here to link that product to a category. So that is essentially what we're doing here now. So we want to link our product to our category. Okay, so what we can do is log out here. To log in, leave the page as is. And here under our product model here, we want to go ahead and add in a foreign key field here. So I've gone ahead and just created one here for you. I'll just add a comment here, FK for foreign key, so you can see how it's stated. So essentially we are creating a category here, a variable, category field, sorry, that will be linked to our category model in our product class. We are also going to create a related name called product. Okay, so this is going to help establish relationships between our category model and our product model. Then we're going to set the onDelete property. So basically what that means is, let's say we have a category of shoes, or we have a category of shirts, or we have a category of pants. And let's say we have a product which is Versace shirt or Versace pants. And let's say, for example, that this store, okay, doesn't sell pants anymore. Now it doesn't make, let's say the store doesn't sell shoes anymore or shirts. Now it doesn't make sense in your products to have shoes and shirts, okay? Because it doesn't make sense because you don't sell that anymore. So essentially once a category is removed, for instance, those products should automatically be deleted, and that is why we have this onDelete parameter here. And we also are just stating null equals to true, so we can ensure that we don't have any null objects, or anything like that. So that's what we're doing here. Okay, so make sure you've got that set and ready to go. So we would need to make our migrations. Now, please make sure that you followed what I did earlier on and deleted all of your objects in your product model and your category model in case you were testing anything. Very important. Now, once you've done that, you can go ahead and clear this up and say Python manage.py, make migration. So you're going to simply remigrate. So go ahead and do that. Okay, you're migrating. So now you've added the field category to product. Now you can go ahead now and you can just migrate that accordingly. And there we go. So if we were to go ahead and run our server, now something very important to bear note here, if we run it, okay, let's run it. Head over to your admin page, refresh, and go ahead and log in again. Right, so let's go ahead. All right, so now if you head over to your products model and you say add product, now we'll be able to assign a category to that, assign a category for our product as follows. Now we don't have categories at the moment because we need to create some, but you can see the general idea. And if we save here, okay, it's going to force us to enter a category here, at least here in our form, which is exactly what it should be doing. So very important, make sure the field at least is saying required, so that's important. Okay, great. Now we can head over to our categories and let's get started. So let's re-evaluate what we have. So I'm just going to, yeah, I can keep this here. Let's evaluate. So Marvin's brown shoes, Marvin's black shoes, mineral blue shirt, and dark green shirt are the products that we have. So I can see two of them are branded. So they namely Marvin. The brand is Marvin's or Marvin. And mineral blue shirt and dark green shirt can be seen as, if we were to add a product, just a moment, that we can leave the brand as unbranded. But in this case, for this product here, Marvin's, we're going to have to put in the brand Marvin's, for example. Great. Okay, so let's create our categories. Let's create one. First one, I'm going to call shoes. Now, have a look here at the pre-populated field, which we defined under our admin.py. So that's what's going on here. So our slug is automatically typing in whatever name is being set to above here. So that's what's going on here. Now go ahead and save that category. So we have one category. Good. Let's add another one. Let's call this shirts. Perfect. Save it. Now we have another category for shirts. Great. Now what we can do is we can head over to our products and let's get started. So I'm going to do this from scratch. So first of all, we want to select a category for this product. So I want to add this product to, let's see what we have. I want to add it to the shoes category. And the title here for this product is going to be, let's see what we got. So I want to actually close this up here. Okay. Marvin's brown shoes. So I'm going to copy this here, this whole name exactly. So sorry guys, I'm very specific and I'm going to put that in like that. And you'll see the slug will automatically append as follows. Now the brand, I'm just going to call this Marvin. Okay, let's assume it's Marvin. And the description here, I'm just going to set as trendy. Okay, let's put a dot there to make it a bit more meta. Great, now the price, I'm going to say $19.99. And now the image, let's go ahead and choose the image. So Marvin's brown shoes, perfect. That looks good, let's save it. Great. Now let's go ahead and verify. Okay, it's set to the category of shoes. The image, let's check the image location. So under media, images, Marvin's brown shoes. Great, it's looking good so far. Let's go ahead and add another product. So the category is going to be under shoes. The title, we want to go and get our title. So Marvin's black shoes this time. Let's copy that, paste that in. The brand is Marvin. And here I'm going to say formal wear. Wear, not war. Notice the slug is set and ready for us. So this will be important because later we're going to add in our route our slug. So we'll be able to directly go to that particular product. Let's set the price now. So $19.99. Choose image. Marvin's black shoes. Great. Save. Let's read this product to see a bit about it. Good. Image. Working good. Now, I know I'm very repetitive on this, but guys, it's just for your benefit and practice. Let's add another product. Choose the category, shirts. So let's go ahead and get our shirt. So let's get this. So we are only going to do this once. So that's the reason why I'm being so thorough. And I'm going to add the title, unbranded, and I'm just going to say casual wear. Okay, so that's the reason why I'm doing it thoroughly, because I'll only be doing this once. So let's choose the image, mineral blue shirt, save, check, that looks good, check the picture, looking good. So our store is looking really nice, guys. Let's do our last product now, which will be assigned to shirts. Let's get our title. So it will be dark green shirt. So let's copy as is, add it. And here I'm going to say casual wear again. Dark green shirt, price $9.99. Choose the image. Add dark green shirt. Save. Perfect. So now we have our products and our categories. So we have two categories, namely shirts and shoes. And our products, dark green shirt, mineral blue shirt, Marvin's black shoes, Marvin's brown shoes. Great. And we can see that they're all linked. So make sure that you have them linked and ready to go, because if we were not to link them and we were to save, it's going to force us, and this is exactly what we want. So in this case, we have a dark green shirt, save it, all good. So let's check shirt. So we can check our products if they are set. Good. Shirts, shoes, shoes. Great. So this is working as it should. So now we have gone ahead and just pre-populated our database with a few products and set the categories and products accordingly. All right, so basically what I wanted to do here was just to add that model field, just to better teach you guys what I mean by, relationships. So this was the best way to explain it. I wanted to do it earlier on when we were creating our model, but I thought, you know what, it's going to maybe make more sense to you guys if I actually try and explain what I'm doing here. So this is a good way to explain relationships, okay, between shoes and shirts in our use case, so you can understand the foreign key in a more abstract sort of way. Because if I just explained what the foreign key does on the basis, okay, it wouldn't make as much sense. So now at least it's going to make more sense to you guys as to how this foreign key operates, and everything being in a relationship between categories and the exact products being matched up together. So that is why I thought, why not go ahead and just simply add the category later on when we actually bridging the relationship between our category and products. Okay. And also just to, help you guys on understanding that if you are making a migration after your initial migration and you want to add something extra, you need to make sure that you at least remove that it's the safest way to remove all of the products from your models in your admin page, at the very least. For example, products and categories, or else you're going to run into some kind of error. So always, be, safe and secure when you're doing this. All right, so that's it, guys. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next hands-on activity where we are going to be learning how to create the initial storefront page. All right, so let's get started. Now, the first thing I want to teach you here is if we head over to our store and we go to our templates, we will see our store.html just says this is my store. So if our server is running, so we can just rerun our server, go ahead and just rerun it just to free it of any clutter or any issues. Okay, and if we go and refresh, it just says this is my store. Very plain, very simple. Now, what I want to show you here was what I did was just based on HTML. Now, like I said, this is going to be inherited across many of our pages. Now, those of you that are developers, of course, most of you will probably be backend developers. So you'll probably know in object-oriented programming, we have something known as inheritance. So what we can do here is something very similar, and we can utilize an extends keyword here to perform that. So we want this base.html to be on this store.html page here. So I'm going to remove this h1 text here for now. And all I'm going to say here in curly braces, I'm going to put a percentage symbol that says extends. And here in double quotes, I'm just going to reference that base.html file. And I'm just going to say /base.html. And here I'm just going to close it with a percentage symbol like so. And let's see what we inherit from base.html in our store now. So our server is running, okay. And now let's refresh. And now we can see we inherit this nice navigation bar, which we can, which we can inherit right across our project on many pages. So now we can go in a little bit more detail as what I pretty much copy and pasted here. So basically I went already through this, the CSS, the JavaScript that we require. So here I just set the title. So my store is going to be called Eden Store. And I've also set that here accordingly. So here's our navigation bar. So I set it to Eden Store, as you can see here. I also went ahead and set the href here. So our link here, the URL is set to store. And we already defined that earlier on in our URLs as store here. as the naming attribute. So that is what's going on. Yeah, what's going on there. So if we were to click on this, we would be, of course, redirected back to our store. All right, then I went ahead and created a categories sort of a drop down here for you, a category section. Okay, so here at the moment it just has one, and that is all. So essentially what's going to happen is we're going to have multiple categories of a particular product, you could say, and we'll be able to filter on them, and then we'll see on our page here the relevant categories. All right, then what I went ahead and I just set the URL to store for all. So if someone selects all, they'll see it here all on the storefront page, and just simply scroll down. All right, then what I did was I went ahead in the navbar and I set a register sort of link pass and a logging link pass, as you can see here under the link nav here. So you can see we have a register and a login link. And the last thing I set up was a link here for our shopping cart. So this is technically wrapped up in a link, just as a register and login is, as we can see, but it's more in like a button sort of format. So I styled this link to look like the type of a button. So it looks a little bit cleaner and more like a shopping cart sort of location for checking all your items. Okay, so that is the basis here for what we have here, and this is inherited from our base here, as we see, and we inherit this base or extend it here in storefront. We're extending it and inheriting everything here. Now, in terms of what goes into the block content here and the end block, what goes here, okay, essentially is whatever we have in our store.html block content. So what we need to do here is we need to simply go ahead and say block content. Okay, and this is everything that's going, and everything in here is going to be unique to the store page. Okay, so it's not going to interfere with base.html. So effectively the block content here is what we are going to state here as the block content. So I'm just going to go ahead and set that up accordingly. So here I just say end block. And everything in here we need to set for our store. So this needs to be unique. So here I'm just going to say store. And it's going to be unique. If I were to go ahead and add this outside of this block content, take that out. Okay, it's not going to show because it needs to be within the content, because this is what makes this store page unique and every other template that we use. So it would need to be within these tags here. Okay, now while we're at it, I'm also going to load static as well at the top. So I'll take that. And of course, I will make sure to load static as well. So I'll load that as well. So generally, I believe this should be at the top. Let's see if that is the case. We need to actually move it. Yeah, let's move this here. So just move your static folder as it should be. There we go. So your extends tag needs to be at the top, so bear that in mind, and then everything can go ahead below it. In this case here for base.html, you don't really need to worry about that. That's not a problem, but just make sure that you set your static location just below here for all your templates. And the base here, it does not matter. So it is a bit sensitive in this case. Usually you would load static at the top, but in this case, it doesn't really like you doing that. Great, so everything's working as it should and looks really nice. Okay, so I've gone ahead again and created another, I've created another template which you guys can make use of, and you can go ahead and copy it. Now what I've done is I've gone ahead and created a store HTML here. So you can literally, if you please, actually go ahead and replace the store.html file if you wish. You can literally go ahead and copy it over. It literally has what I just showed you with the extends and the load static and the block content, and everything that we see here is all in place for you. So you can literally move that over. I mean, you now know what this does, you understand it, and the rest is literally the rest is literally just basic bootstrap themes. That's literally all it is. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to move this replacement over. So I'm just going to move it like so. And as we can see here, it already exists. Do you want to replace it? Yep, I want to replace it. And there we go. So it's exactly the same. The only difference here is I've taken the liberty of filling out this was a section for you to give you a little bit of styling in front, so you don't need to worry too much about the styling issues or anything. And I've gone ahead and created a button. Okay, this is best to see if we refresh. So let's refresh and let me elaborate on it. So let's refresh. Now, do bear in mind this store.html template will also be in the resources section of this lecture. So do bear that in mind, okay, when you are working on this. Now, if we were to refresh, we can now see it looks a bit cleaner, a bit nicer. What I want to do here actually is I just want to add a space there. Okay. So I'll make that change when I upload this. Just the space is always bothering me. So now we have a bit of a cleaner page here. So now it says Eden Sort. So that's the name of my e-commerce store, or our e-commerce store. Simplicity at its finest. Browse our extensive collection. Okay, so now we can see it looks a bit cleaner, a bit nicer, and is looking a bit more rounded. So we just have a section here. We have our div, our class, and I've just set up the bootstrap there. So like I said, this is all bootstrap. You can go ahead and look and adjust it yourselves. I've just pre-configured it for you. And I've also added a little bit of styling here with text muted. That makes it give a grayish sort of styling to the text here. I've also added a button here as well. And, you know, taken the liberty of using a link and then just styling it as a button for creating our account. And of course, the main heading is set accordingly. So we just have our H4 tag, we have our paragraph tag here, and we also have our button sort of link here. And do bear in mind, these are all within the end block and the block content here, because like I said, it won't be seen outside of it. So make sure you do remember that. And extends.html needs to be at the top, so make sure you also remember that as well. Okay, so this is our initial store page, and do bear in mind that we are extending here from our base.html. So if I were to just remove this and refresh, we can now see it's gone, and the styling is also gone. And the reason for that is our base.html, we added this bootstrap theme from Bootswatch. So remember early on I mentioned Bootswatch, and this is the reason for that. So let's go ahead and put that back, and let's refresh, and we can now see that we inherited it, because remember in our base.html we did include a navigation bar here, which is being inherited in our store page. So basically all you really need to do here is, to be honest with you, if this is a bit hectic, just copy and paste what I have here for base.html and store.html and just play around and look at it. Because like I said, to be honest, if you want me to explain literally line by line all of it, is going to really annoy you guys, because this is Bootstrap and this is stuff that is not really as important to really go through in much depth for now, at least, because like I said, we want to focus on Django and JavaScript. So we just want to get the templates out the way. So that's the whole point of this section that I made. I just want to get the templates out the way so we can focus on the in-depth programming aspects. Okay, so there we go, there we have it. So there are our initial base.html page, along with our initial store page, which we have just created, which we'll eventually modify. All right, so that's for this part. Hi everyone, and welcome to the next hands-on activity where we are going to set up and create our base page. So basically our base template is going to be on pretty much all of our templates and all of our pages on our project. So we are going to just set that up accordingly. Now, when it comes to these HTML templates and styling with all this Bootstrap and all of that, you know, you can always go ahead and check out Bootstrap here, you know, just to see what it has here, what it has to offer. And also when it comes to the navigation bar as well, you can go ahead and see for your own sort of for knowledge sake here, just see the different types, and you know, you just simply copy and paste it. So it's really simple here. Now, I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of you know, people copying and not explaining code, but when it comes to this part, there really isn't really much to say about it, really. I mean, this is what it is for. It's really built in for you and for your own use to read through this documentation. But when it comes to understanding the functionality such as Django, the JavaScript, from there, I really understand, you know, you need to have a good explanation and people expect to understand what's going on there. But when it comes to this part here, I mean, anyone can really do it. There isn't really much genius behind it. you would just copy what you see from this navbar bootstrap here and the bootstrap page where you can go ahead and make use of the CDN, the JavaScript associated to make, for example, these navigation bars responsive, etc., and all of that. Now, I'm not going to go into detail for this, and you can go ahead and look at this, make your own sort of designs here. I have gone ahead and created a design for you to make it easier for your benefit, because I don't want to spend too much time on things that I don't feel is really necessary. So, of course, you can go ahead and check on your own. What I will do to make it easier for you, I will attach all the links of everything here that I utilized to sort of make up this template here for our base template here. So I will include that under the resources section of this lecture. I will include links to these pages in case you are wondering and want some more information. If you don't want to use the ones that I provide, it's really up to you. So when it comes to this, you know, for the next parts, when it comes to the templates, to keep it easy for you, it's literally going to be, you know, just copying and pasting the files that I have here that I've made for you to make it easier for you. And that's the only reason that I do it, because I don't want us, like I said, to go through things that I don't feel is really essential, because literally that's what Bootstrap is, to just copy and paste what you have here and then just adjust slightly. Okay, so I hope you guys understand what I mean by that. And just to maximize what we're doing in the course and focus on the Django and JavaScript aspect here. Okay, so anyway, like I said, I will go ahead and make use of these links and put it in the resources section here for you. Now, the template here that I have here in this base here, I will include also in the resources section. So make sure if you're following along that you simply copy and paste it as is. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So it's very simple for you. And then we're just going to, you know, play around with it and just see how it looks and everything. So let's go ahead and test it out. Okay, so what we're going to do is simple. Just head over to your store here. So head over to your store and head over to your templates. And literally all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste what I have in this store here, my base.html, which I have. If I minimize that, I'll have a base.html here. This is my base.html file, which I have opened here. So you can go ahead and copy and paste it. Remember, it is in the resources for this this lecture, and for a few other lectures, we'll also just copy and paste this template. So it's very simple. So what you can do is you can simply just drag it accordingly. So I'm going to drag it in store. And there we have it. Base.html is now within our application. So it's all set and ready to go. So I will explain a little bit about what's going on here and then go in a little bit more detail in the next lecture. So basically what we have here is the associated links. So I have my CSS. So this is a boot swatch link here. So boot swatch is used for free Bootstrap themes. So this is what I'm utilizing here. And what I've done is I simply went ahead and picked a theme here. So I chose Flatly, I believe. So what I did was I clicked here and then right clicked on bootstrap min.css and opened it in a new tab. And all I did was I copied the URL and added it right here as you see, and I just pasted it there. Now you can go ahead and on your own look for a boot swatch theme that takes your fancy and just copy and paste it in as follows. All right, so you can just go ahead and look at that for your own pleasure. Okay. Then of course I'm utilizing Font Awesome here. Now the reason for Font Awesome is I got this from W3 Schools, and don't worry, like I said, I'll attach all the links in the resources section for this lecture. And this allows me just to add some icons, and the icons I got from this Font Awesome site, and I went ahead and I selected one and I copied it and just simply pasted it in here. Specifically for my shopping cart icon, which I'm looking for. There we go, for my shopping cart icon right here. So I just set this up for you nicely and so on. Now the key importance here about a base.html is we have this block content and end block here. So essentially what's going to happen is we are going to extend this base.html template, and we're going to have it on every page. So that's what we're doing here with block content and end block. Everything else is simple HTML that you can look over. It's very simple, not that crazy. But this is the important part to understand. So the block content. So basically what's going to happen is in the next lecture, we're going to extend this base.html that we have here into our store.html. And then we are simply going to append everything in store basically within these blocks. And everything else here is going to be inherited on this store.html and any other template that we utilize later on. Okay, so this will make sense as we work through this. But the basic idea is you don't need to worry too much about this here. It's just simple bootstrap that I've just modified and you know, such as the nav bars, etc. and font awesome and a bit of boot swatcher to adjust the theme just accordingly. Okay, so simply go ahead and just simply copy and paste this in. So it will be under this particular lecture. So go ahead and copy the base.html and add it within your store directory here, along with your store page as well. So just go ahead and add that in. All right. And of course, we also have some JavaScript here. So the JavaScript bundle, which I of course got from Bootstrap here, as you can see here, just to make everything a bit more responsive, along with jQuery as well. Now I've gone ahead and added jQuery as well because we are going to be utilizing Ajax. So I do recommend that you go ahead and actually make use of the exact what do you call it, the exact line here, the jQuery min here. So make sure you utilize this. So like I said, you can of course, it's all going to be set and ready for you, so you don't need to worry about that. So it's all here for you, so you don't need to stress too much about anything like that at all. Okay, so be sure to just add this in. And of course, other CSS is for our font awesome. And I just added a little bit here of you know, some basic styling, well, some, you know, the basic metadata that we need for a HTML document. Of course, I've also loaded static in. I've taken the courtesy of doing that for you as well. And a little bit, but we'll see more about this in the next lecture when we actually extend this base.html in the store. Then I can go into more detail as to the look and the feel of it. All right. So just be sure to copy and paste this in. It will be in the resource section. So all you need to do if you're following along, just go ahead and paste it in. Simple, easy, straight to the point. All right. So go ahead and do just that. All right, everyone. And welcome to the next hands-on activity where we will be learning how to configure our URL files and store view. So let's get started. Now, first of all, you want to head over to your project, head over to your app. So in this case, mine is called store. And then you want to go ahead and create a urls.py file here in this app. So I'm going to say new file, right click on store, say new file. Here I'm going to say urls.py, like so. Now we want to create our URL here. So a URL path, and this one that we're going to create will be just for our storefront for now. So we can say here from django.urls import path. So we want to make use of our path function to set our URL. Then we need to say from .import views. Now the reason for this is we want to go ahead and actually import our views here. And the reason we just say dot is because we are in the same directory. So we don't need to put like a slash or anything like that. Great. Now our URL patterns will be present within a list. So let's go ahead and create that list here and open it up. And what we want to do here is we want to create our URL path. But before we do that, let's head over to our view here. So we can open this views.py, put it right next to our urls.py. And here we're just going to keep it very simple. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to create a simple view, you could say. So all this view is going to have is simply a index, sort of a template. That's all it's going to have here. So what I'm going to do is just say def store, pass in a request to handle the view. And here I'm going to simply just go ahead and say return, render, pass in the request. And here I'm just going to say store.html, just like that. Now, there's something that you need to bear in mind. So since we are defining templates at the app level here, if we just simply went ahead and created our template and stored it in templates, this would be fine. But because we are going to store templates in store, we would need to add a /. So let me show you. So in store here, we want to right click, say new file, and we're going to say store.html. So do note that this is situated in the store directory under templates. So if we had store under templates, it would be fine. But because we have it under the store folder, we would need to say store/store.html just to set that URL path accordingly, as you can see here, the location. All right. Now, what we can do is we can actually put something in here. So while we're here, and I'm just going to put some text saying, put h1 tags. And I'm going to say, this is my store. So very simple for now. And we just want to get everything connected as it should be. We will do lots of edits, of course. So that is perfectly fine. So there is our view called store. And it's passing a request for a simple HTML file, which we went ahead and defined under templates and was in our store directory here. Now by the URL here, we want to set that up. So what we can do is we can simply say pass, and we want to leave the string empty. So it will be the home page where we see the storefront. Then we say views.store. Okay. And the store, of course, has been defined here accordingly. So we can now just set one extra parameter, and that will be the naming attribute, which I'm going to leave at store. And just be sure to add a comma at the end. I always forget to do this, so be sure to do that. Now we're all set and ready to go. One more thing that we need to do now is we need to reference this urls.py in our main project URLs directory here. So what we can do is we can actually close this up. Okay, we can close all that up. Head over to e-commerce, urls.py. And what we want to do is just define another URL path. So before we do that, I noticed we have this document thing here. So sometimes if you just add something here to, for example, your Django settings here, it does sometimes add these extra stuff by accident sometimes. So let's just take that out. So make sure you just clear that if you see it. All right, so now we want to say path, and we're going to leave it as an empty string. And we want to reference all the URLs, okay, and sort of connect it as a central branch here with store. So to do that, we need to make use of the include function, like so. And all we're going to do is we're going to say include, and within parentheses, we're going to say store.urls. Remember to then just add your comma at the end. Okay, so everything should now be connected as it should. So make sure you set this up accordingly in your main urls.py, and you have the same that I have. And what you can do is you can close this up, head over to your store, look at your URLs, just double check. Okay, everything's set here. The view is set, the URL path, I have my comma. So it's always good to double check your code before running, just to make sure everything is working as it should. All right, so that's looking good. So what I want to do now is rerun this. Let's see if there are any errors of any kind. So let's have a look and see how it's looking. Okay, it's looking good. So technically now, if we refresh this page, we should see this here. This is my store. So we've got a basic sort of storefront, and our HTML is all connected to our template as follows. Now, one thing I just want to mention here, so you guys don't get confused, is the reason that I have store here in front is because of that directory that we were in. If, for example, I change this name, and for example, say, let's say storefront, I would need to change this here to storefront, depending on that folder name. So that's the reason for it. So I don't want you to get confused on this here. So do pay attention to the order here. Store folder is in the store.html is in the store folder. So just have a quick look there just so that you're comfortable with it. Okay, so that's it for this part here on configuring the URL files and the store view. All right. Right. Now, to make it easier for you, I've gone again and made a template for you, which you just need to simply add as is. So what you can do is you can simply move this product info template, and as you can see, it is according to what we set here as the template itself. So we just need to make sure it's under this store directory here within templates. So very simple, just go ahead and move that into store here. Make sure it's under it, and you can validate this by clicking on it, and you can see the location. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so, product info, my bad. So product info, we can validate. Let's check template, store, product info, great. And we also have our extends here, which is base, which is good. And everything's looking great here. So let's see. Okay, so everything's looking as it should. I just want to move back here so I can explain. So basically here what I've done is I've gone ahead and was in comments here, added the relevant objects that we can go ahead and return here. So the attributes such as the title, the brand, the description, and the image, along with the price and a few other things down here that you can have a look at and investigate as well. Okay, so it's all here ready for you, so make sure that you check the resources folder for this lecture, and all you need to do is simply copy and paste this product info page. Is all set and ready for you, it's done and all there. So let's focus on the Django, so we can close this up. So we have our views, so all we're doing here is we're getting a specific product whose slug is equal to the slug that we enter here in the URL. So that is essentially what's going on here. Now we will add this to be more dynamic when we click on links, but for now, for testing, we're going to check it manually in the URL. So all we need to do now is, because we're getting a single object, we don't need to loop, okay? We do not need to loop, use a for loop. We can actually just put in, for example, product.title, product.image, etc. So essentially, head over to your views.py and let's see what our key is. Our key is product. Great. So we can reference that accordingly in our product info page here. So now we can start off with product image. So you can focus on the comments. Let the comments lead the way for you. So this is one of the perks of comments as well. So here, what I want to do is just say product. So I like to put spaces. So product.image.url. Perfect. Next, product title. Let's put that in here. And I'm going to say product.title. Now, please make sure that you actually look at the templates that I include in the resources section. It will really help save you a lot of time, so you don't focus on the non-essentials. Product brand. Okay, let's remove this, put that in. Product brand. Now, if you're unsure of this, you can always verify. If you open your models here, just go ahead and verify the necessary fields that we've added here on our model. Okay, product description goes here. Product. So do bear in mind, okay, it isn't like essential for you to use exactly the same styling as I have, the same tags like the H1 tag, strong tag. It's really up to you. I'm just giving you a template to make it easier for you. Okay, the product price. Okay, let's add it here. So our price, so we can say product.price. Great. Okay, so let's actually go ahead and test this out. So this is good. So let's make sure we've assigned everything. So we have our product price set. We have our product description, brand, title, image, URL. That is looking good. So here's our product.html page. Make sure you set the views accordingly as I have, and check your URLs. So let's test this out. So in the URL, we're going to put in product, and then within our slug, we're going to go ahead and look for a product here to check. So let's put in, for example, product / and we have Marvin's black shoes here. So I'm going to type that in manually. So here we have Marvin's black shoes. So go ahead and press enter. And there we go. Works like a charm. So we can now see a nice picture of our product here. So you can of course change the sizing if you would prefer. So you can set that here according to the image if you want it smaller or bigger. We can now see a description, the brand, the title, the price, the add to cart option. So eventually we'll add our products to our cart, the quantity, etc. Now we can of course change this up. So if we head over to our project here, and we can maybe check this out for the Marvin's brown shoes. So we can add that. Now, I know you're probably wondering, how on earth do I know what to add here? Now, the truth of the matter is that we set this earlier on in our admin page. So we can see here, we need to double check it in our admin page. So let me show you how to do that. So I'm going to open just a notepad for demonstration here, so you can understand where I'm getting this slug from. So we can just rerun our server, rerun that, and I'm going to show you how you can get that particular slug. Go to admin, go ahead and log in with your credentials, right? Make sure to log in. Head over to your products. For example, let's look at Marvin's brown shoes, and we can now see that slug that I was rendering early on. So the reason I didn't see it early on is because I use a capital. So we can copy this here. So here's one of the slugs. So I just want to explain this a little bit better so that you understand what's going on here. Here's another slug. Let's see what other ones. Blue shirt. So I'm going to show you this in detail so you understand. 3 is good enough. Log out. Hit over here. So let me explain in more detail for you. So essentially what's going on now, we have our product, that's the route that we specify, and now we have our slug. Now this is the slug that we just obtained from our admin page. Now in our views here, we are checking, okay, we're passing over here the slug, we are passing this over here, for example. So whenever we make a request, so let's say we have Marvin's brown shoes here, we are passing that essentially through like that. And what's going to happen is this view is going to collect that slug that we entered in here. Then it's going to perform this query check. It's going to get an object from product where the slug on that table is equal to the slug here that we've entered in our URL, for example, and then it's going to return all the data that is associated with that product, in this case Marvin's brown shoes. So we can see it as follows. Now you can test this for any of the other products that we have. So we can test it for the mineral blue shirt. Make sure you put it in the slug place. So that's where our slug will go. And it works perfectly as it should. All right, so that's what's going on here. I know it was a bit longer this lecture, but I wanted to be thorough and clear so you understand properly what is this slug that we are utilizing here. Okay, so that's essentially it. So we've created the basic singular page here for our individual product. Now, of course, you're probably wondering, okay, this isn't efficient. So what we want to do soon enough, which we'll do, is to assign dynamic links. So when we click on these titles, we are directed to that product page itself. So it's a lot quicker and a lot more efficient. And we'll also configure that when we are setting up our categories. All right, so that's that. Hi, everyone. And welcome to the next hands-on activity where we'll be learning how to create dynamic links. So let me go ahead and explain this in a little bit more detail. So let's say, for example, we have our products here, and let's say we want to click on our Marvin Brown shoes product. So earlier on, when we were creating that singular product information view from earlier on, we typed it here in the URL, if you recall, such as product, and then we typed in that shoe or shirt, for example, mineral blue shirt. Now we don't want it to be ran this way. This doesn't make sense. So instead, what we want to do is that link that I just typed in, I want that to be assigned to these products individually. So when you click on the link, it sends you to that product page where you'll be able to read more about it and add it to the cart. So this is where we're going to create dynamic links. We're also going to create dynamic links for our categories options here. So when we click on shoes, it shows us all of the shoes in our database and all of the shirts in our database as well. Now we don't have a URL for this, so we're going to have to create our own custom URL, which is seen as a dynamic link. So let's get started. So first of all, head over to your project and head over to models.py. Now, to start the build for this custom link, we need to import a function called reverse. So we can say here from django.urls import reverse. Okay, like that. And this is going to allow us to create our own URL. So essentially, if we go to our, if we go to our urls.py here, this is the URL that we want to create with our reverse function here, essentially. So when we, per se, click on this title, we want to be redirected to that specific URL. So that's what we are building here. So let's get started. So we want to first build our product custom URL here, and we're going to make a function for that. So make sure you're within your class product. And here, make sure you're set here. And we are going to create that dynamic URL here. So we're going to say def, and then we're going to simply say get underscore absolute underscore URL. Within parentheses, we're going to say self. And then we're going to return, reverse. So then we're going to make use of that function that we added in. And here, for our first parameter, we are going to set the name attribute that we stated in our URL. So if we want to go to this route or URL, we need to reference it by this name attributes value. So it's product info in this case. So in quotes, we can say product dash info. And we need to put in a second parameter here, which is going to be the argument. And we're going to say args, and here we're going to say self. Okay, dot slug. Okay, so we're going to be referencing according to the slug that we are searching for here. So that is essentially what we're doing here. So to re-emphasize what I'm doing, I'm creating a custom URL so our users can be redirected to the specific product page. So the first parameter is the name attribute from our URL, which is product info. The second parameter will correlate to the argument to whichever product that we want to currently view via the self slug. Okay, we can then use this to create this dynamic URL and use it across our application in various sections. All right, now let's test this out. So we need to then go to store.html, scroll down until we see the title. So here we have the title and an empty href property. Now what we can do is very simple. We can just literally say product, and we can get that specific function that we just created, get absolute URL. We can paste that in. Oh, I got it a bit weirdly there. So dot get absolute URL, like so. So if we were to head over here and refresh the page, if we hover over the products, we can now see in the bottom left on the tooltip, we have that URL which we tested earlier on. So now if we click here, we get redirected accordingly to the products, the product info page for those singular products. Okay, so it's working perfectly, and our links are now more dynamic. Perfect. So we can see it's all working as it should. Right, so what we want to do now is we want to set this up for our categories page. So that is the next step. Right, so what we can do is literally do the same process. So all we're going to do is we're going to head over to our models, and we can literally copy this here. So it's good to reuse, and we can put it under category like so. You just want to set that up there. And here we want to go ahead and switch this out for list category. Now we currently do not have we haven't built upon our view for our category just yet in detail. So for the moment, this is not going to work, but I'm going to create a HTML template and a view with the name attribute of list category. And we're going to do the exact same thing here. So do not worry, we will get to this in the next set of lectures. So we're going to do the same thing here. And in the meantime, we're just going to leave it as is. So what we can do actually is we can just comment this out for now. Okay, and we will return to this dynamic URL, because essentially what's going to happen is we'll be able to click here appropriately once we finish building our category view, which we need to build here, which will be on the category list. Okay, so just go ahead and just set that up here under your category model and just comment it out for the time being. All right. Hi everyone, and welcome to the next hands-on activity where we will be carrying on with the construction of our category view. So earlier on, when we were in our views, we built our categories view. Now we need to extend this and list and create a view that lists all of our categories. So let's get started. Now, before we can create this view, we want to create the URL for that. So let's go ahead and do that. So basically, we are going to create a URL that filters each product by the drop-down menu, which essentially is this here. We want to fix this functionality. And in time, we're going to uncomment out this dynamic URL, and I'll show you just how that is implemented. So let's get started. So what's going to happen is we're going to create a URL pass here, and we're also going to attach a slug, where the slug is going to reference the data and basically it's going to reference the various categories and groupings of our products. So for example, instead of product and then slug here, we're going to instead have something that bears a resemblance of search. And then we're going to probably have, for example, shirts. Okay, or we're going to have search and shoes, where here we will have the slug, okay, which correlates to what we have here within angle brackets as our slug. Now, if you want further analysis of the slug here for other categories, what we can do to give you extra information here, we can go to our admin page. Go ahead and actually enter your credentials. Right, so once you've entered in your credentials, go ahead and log in. Head over to your categories, select one of the categories, and here you can see the slug. So this is the slug that we will be which we can reference according to the categories that we have. Okay, so that's what we're referencing to these slugs as we have here. So let's log out. Let's go back. So that's what we're going to do. So we can say search, for example, shirts, and search shoes. So this is exactly the same type of logic that we utilize for these products when we went directly to that particular product. Okay, so that's essentially what we're doing here. Okay, so let's move on. So we can create a path for that. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to adjust it. So this is going to be, for example, search. So let's add some comments here. So here is my store main page. Here I'm going to say individual product. And here I'm going to say individual category. So this is going to help us for our individual products and individual categories. So here I'm just changing the route to search, and then the slug, which I showed you earlier on, will fit in right there. We should also create a view. So I'm going to call this view list underscore category. And the attribute here for name is going to be list category, like follows. Okay, so there is our URL path done. Now let's go and look at our views. I'll put it next to it. And we can go ahead and just put it actually under categories so it all links up. So we want to create a new view called list category. Okay. We can pass the request object. And what we want to do here is we want to just let that recognize it. So there we go, it's recognized. Product info, I don't know why that's because we need to just say pass here. So pass is a very useful keyword that we can use if we want to just have a blank function just for a moment. Okay, so this should appear. Yeah, there we go. So just wanted to fix that up. All right, so let's get started. So we need to pass in the request here, which we of course have. And we also need to take in a category slug parameter, okay, which is the category that we will be searching for. So this is very similar to what we did here with slug here earlier on. So it's very similar to what we did before. So a similar way of logic that we are following here. So here we're just going to say category, and then we're going to say underscore slug. And we are just going to say equals none for now. Okay, so we're just going to set it to none for the moment. Okay. Now what we're going to do after that is we're just going to go ahead and say category. And we're going to use the same logic here. Okay. And here we're just going to replace that with category slug. Okay. And another thing that we also need to do is we need to define our products. So we're going to say products is equal to product.objects.filter, and we want to filter that by the category where it equals to the category. Okay, so that's essentially what we need to do here. Then we need to say return render. So this is going to be quite standard. We're going to pass return request on a list category HTML page, which we will eventually create. So I'm just going to create one by default for now. I'm going to say list category.html. And I might as well put store there for now, but don't worry, we will create this shortly. And then within this particular template here, I want to go ahead and pass in the following. So I'm just going to say here, I'm going to say category as my value. And I'm going to go ahead and set the value here to category as we defined here. And now the next one will be for products. So what we can actually do to make this easier, we can actually keep this open and we can just say products, set the value to products here. And we can just go ahead and close that curly brace. So we're passing in essentially our key here for category and the value and the products as follows. So what we're doing here is we are then going to query the category model to select one item where the slug is equal to the category slug. So remember what I meant here earlier on, where I went ahead and explained that we are going to take in as our slug whatever is being queried in the URL. So if we are, for example, querying, if we say search and we're querying for shirts, or if we're querying for shoes, it's going to be sent over in this URL here. And it's going to be passed on to the category slug as we see here, which is going to be assigned here to the slug that we see. So what's going to happen is a slug in our, that should be category actually. Sorry about that. That should be category. So it's going to get the category model here, and it's going to check if the slug in our category is equal to the slug here that we've passed over. Okay, so that is essentially what is going to be happening here. So do bear that in mind. All I did was I just set this to none just to keep it default for the moment until we call it here. So that's what I'm doing basically here. All right, so after we've queried the category model, we are going to find all the products that are grouped within that particular category. So that's what we're doing here. We're filtering all the products that have that category. So this is according to that foreign key value, if you recall. So it's going to return a list of all the products, for example, that are under, let's say, shoes, or all the products under shirts. So that is what we're doing here. And then we're just returning this and rendering this within our list category template, which we are going to create shortly. So do bear that in mind as to what we're doing here. Okay, so that is something important to just go ahead and bear in mind. But what we can actually do in the meantime is we can actually go ahead and finish up that dynamic URL for the moment. Okay, so what we can do is we can fix that up. Okay, so what we'll do is head over to models and make sure that you've set this up as it should. And we can just remove the comments. And bear in mind the reverse here, the URL path, is going to be set to the name attribute here of this URL path. So that is what we're referencing by the models here. So if we were to refresh, we can see we have our categories, but we cannot do anything just yet because we need to set this up, the href property. So we can go now to our base and let's look for the category. So here is the categories where they are being all output here. So we can see that's how they're being output. We just need to then set this href property. So here we can simply just say category dot get underscore absolute underscore URL, which we defined just here in our models. So that's what we're going to check. So let's refresh. Right, so now if we were to hover over these categories, we can now see the tooltip on the left of that URL that we created. Now there's just one thing I want to explain to you before we click on that, is if we head over to our URLs, you must just be careful that you set your slug here properly. So whatever you define here on the second part of your slug will be referenced and carried on throughout throughout your parentheses here when you are setting up your view. So in this case, I named it category slug. Okay, so I need to make sure that I set this here to category underscore slug. So do bear in mind it's very sensitive in this case. And what you can technically do here is for your slug here for your product, you can actually change this around if you'd like to, for example, product slug. So what I mean by that is here you can just say product underscore slug. So go ahead and change that. So I just want to teach you this as well. So here you would say product. So you can understand where this is coming from. And product underscore slug. Okay, so you can understand this whole process of how everything is joined together. So if we were to, let's see if our server's on, yeah, we can refresh. And now let's check this out. Okay, it's working perfectly as it should. And we can now see, yeah, that's how it should be. Okay, and we can also test it manually. Great. Now you can see that's what I mean by that. So it's working perfectly as it should. So you can go ahead and change these slugs so it's a bit cleaner. So we now have product slug and category slug as well. So I just wanted to mention that. So you can just clean this up a bit and you can understand how everything's being propagated and sent over. Okay. So what we can do now is essentially we can click on this and you will see no template, and that's exactly what we should see because we do not have our template defined just yet. So we need to now go ahead in the next lecture, we will create and set up the template. So we can now see all of our shoes and all of our shirts. So we should see 2 shoes in the shoes category, and we should see 2 shirts in the shirts category. And when we click all, we want to see everything. Okay, and that will be the next lecture and hopefully the last one for this section before we move on to actually building our shopping cart, where we will be dealing with sessions and all of the works there. So go ahead and just make sure you change these slugs so it's a bit cleaner and a bit more, it's a bit better to understand it in such a way. All right, so that's it for this part. Hi everyone, and welcome to the last lecture of this section on setting up our basic URLs, views, and templates. So for this particular lecture, I hope you just have a quick look under the resources folder for this section, because we have another template which we're going to utilize that I've gone ahead and created for you called list category. Now, if you head over to your views.py here, just double check and make sure that you've set it according to store list category.html. You can of course change this, it's really up to you. It really depends on how you feel. But in this case, I'm going to store a list category HTML template within store here. So what I'm going to do is just move it in like so. You can of course follow exactly as I do. All right, it's all here, configured and set and ready to go. We will do adjustments in just a moment, but we have it here set and it's all set and ready to go here. So if we were to refresh the page, no errors. Let's check the page now. So now we can see we don't have any errors, but it's now configuring a basic template here. Of course, we'll have an image here and a price, depending on what we want to see here on the category section. And the shirts and the shoes categories are now working as they should. And all, if we go to all, it goes back here. Perfect. So now let's configure this. Now let's have a look here at our code. So what we're doing essentially is we are filtering according to the category, and we want to retrieve all the products according to that set category here. Okay. So now let's actually go ahead and filter this out accordingly in our list category page that we have here. So what I want us to do here for our category name is I just want us to go ahead and just say category.name. Okay, so if we were to go to our shoes, for example, we can now see it says shoes. Great. So we can just adjust this accordingly. So for the category, we can leave it as is. But for the product here, we're going to have to loop out here. So we can see here in the comments that I've set for you here, we have a loop here set and ready to go. But what I want to do first of all is capitalize this product, this category name here. It doesn't look so great. So if we recall in store, we used a template here called cap first, or a filter called cap first. So take that. like that. So now all our categories now should be capitalized. So shirts, shoes, yeah, that's looking good. Okay, now let's finish the rest. So here we want to loop through our products. So let's make sure the value is products. Yes. So now we can say, for example, for product in products. So I'm just going to put below here, for product in products. Okay, I'm going to remove this here. Great. And the end for will be down here. So we can add that here and say end for, like so. Great. Now we can just go ahead and switch this over for product.price and product.title. Now this is really up to you as to what you want to see. It's really your choice. Product.price. So let's refresh. And there we go. So we're getting a bit more information here. So, oh, that should be title. Excuse me. So that should be title. Okay, it's getting better here. And it's looking a bit cleaner. Now, what we want to do next is we want to set the source here. So for the source, we just want to put in the product.image.url. So that's what we want to set here. Okay, it's looking a bit better. So what we need to do now is we need to fix this URL. So this URL here is just literally redirecting to the same page. Okay, and we want to fix this. Now here is where we can get the chance to go ahead and add in our absolute URL. Okay, so the one that we can use here is referencing to product title. So we can go essentially to our store and we want to make use of this product.getAbsolute URL here that we classified earlier on. Now this, if we go to all, is what we're referencing here to get that product directly. So this is the URL that we require. So what we can do is copy that over here, head over to list category, and within this href here for product title, we can paste that in. So when we head over, we can now see that we're now able to go to that specific product on our list category page here, which lists all of the categories as we can see. Okay, so what you can do is if you can click here, you'll go to that product URL page here. So we can see we've got everything working as it should be, and we can filter accordingly as we wish. And a really great thing here is we have this categories, this drop down here anywhere, and we can open it up whenever we want. So that's really a great way of, setting our categories and going to the as specified link. Okay, so that's it for this section. So I hope you guys have learned a lot. So I taught you about dynamic URLs. I've also gone through a little bit on how you can set up context processes, how you can make use of this categories models data right throughout your code and throughout your application, and how to make use of slugs, how to create your own custom URL with using the reverse function, and so on. All right, so that's basically it here, guys. So I hope it made sense to you, and yeah, thanks so much. So just be sure to make use of the templates that are provided in this lecture. So do bear in mind a good rule of thumb, go ahead and double check in each lecture if there are resources, and make sure you utilize them in the course. I will direct you as follows, as I have earlier on. All right, so there you go, guys. So I hope that made sense, and that's that. Hi everyone, and welcome to the next hands-on activity where we are going to be configuring template rendering. Now, what you can technically do is you can either decide to configure template rendering at the project level. So this is in our directory. So you could technically create a new folder here called templates. Now you can do it that way. It's really up to you, but I prefer to rather define templates within the app level. So what we're going to do is define it accordingly. So we're going to head over to store, and I'm going to create the templates folder here. Now, an advantage for setting it here is that you don't need to worry about heading over to your settings.py file here, and by your template dirs, you don't need to state it here because Django automatically recognizes where these templates are rendered from at the app level automatically. So it's some sort of built-in functionality from Django. Now, technically here we can say new file and then create all of our files, but it's good practice to go ahead and create another folder within your templates directory here, and that name for that folder should be called, in this case, store. So it should be the same name as your app where you are creating that templates directory. So here we'll have templates and we'll have another folder called store, or another directory. Okay, so do bear that in mind. Now, the reason for doing this is to make sure that we don't have any namespace sort of issues. Now, technically you don't need to do it this way, but it is the much safer way and the option that I recommend that you do. So this is how we're going to configure templates in this course, and we are also going to create multiple apps for this project. So do bear in mind, this is the style of format that we'll be utilizing for template rendering. It will be defined at the app level. So do bear that in mind. Okay. So that's it. This is the first part for template rendering for this app. All right.